Hello, Steve Arts 89. So, where are we at with the streaming wars? What are the streaming wars? Some people might ask. The streaming wars were inevitable. Basically, every time there's a format change, there is a war between two different versions of that, or companies who want to basically dominate and be in charge. Now, I don't know where this started, but I know the first big one was Beta versus VHS back in the 80s. Now, I wasn't there for that, but I did see some of the collateral damage. My sister and her husband had a beta player and a bunch of beta videos, and they kept them for a long time, but eventually it stopped working. And I don't know if they got a VHS before that died, or if I think they sort of realized, well, we can't get the movies we want now, they're not making them in beta, we have to convert, and they just kept the beta alive for the titles they had, like Kingdom of the Spiders and stuff like that. So yes, that was the first big one. Now, beta was actually the better video, but somehow VHS won because they just fought the battle better. And then we had the I think the next big one was the HD DVD, between HD DVD and Blu-ray. Again, Blu-ray won, but HD DVD was actually the better product. Why did they win? Better marketing. They fought the battle better. Now, I was collateral damaged on some level with HD DVD. I didn't buy a HD DVD player, but I did buy a HD DVD Blu-ray, basically, of the original Star Trek, because the original Star Trek, when it was remastered, came out in exclusively HD, not Blu-ray. And it was a couple of years until they realised that they lost the war. Paramount, who was supporting HD, they did Transformers and a lot of films they released on HD. They lost, and eventually they all came out in Blu-ray, so I ended up buying a second version. But fortunately, they were smart. They packaged the HD DVD with DVD. They were double-sided discs. So I just watched the DVDs. I bought it for the DVDs, watched the DVDs, but then I had to buy it again for the Blu-ray. But I guess if I'd bought the standard DVD, I would have ended up buying the Blu-ray anyway. So I'm not a big casualty of HD DVD, but you still see them. They had red plastic cases. Sometimes you see them in second-hand stores. And Blu-ray, of course, was blue. And they won that battle. Now we have the streaming wars. Now what happened with the streaming wars? Netflix started off, and I didn't realise this, but I saw it happening but didn't really... Netflix was originally a mail-in thing where basically they would mail you DVDs and you'd mail them back. I never understood why. I mean, I have a Blockbuster at the end of my street, because my house at the time was there was a street, and there was like the end of my street was like the car park for a mall, and the Blockbuster was like pretty much on the corner with the car park. So it was basically, I just crossed the road and it was there. So it's very convenient. So why would I mail away for a DVD when I can just go to Blockbuster? I don't understand why people did it, but it was a thing, and it was only just recently something they stopped doing. They went from that to digital downloads to then streaming, and then they were the first one to take the risk, I think, with streaming and becoming their own platform. And everyone was just, Netflix and chill, It was Netflix was the thing. It sort of became almost... it was just them, and then along, I think Hulu was second, and then just every studio thought, oh, we can all have our own streaming service, and we can sell our products directly. We can bypass the studios, bypass the cinemas, and just put our stuff directly out and have people pay us to be members of our service, basically. But and just like cable, because I guess cable was another sort of thing. There was a bunch of cable channels. I think there was a bit of a war there, and they oversaturated the market, and people just started cutting cables and going to digital downloads and streaming. But then streaming did the same thing, where it's like every studio wanted their own streaming service. So you ended up with, all the content that used to be on Netflix was now split over 10 different platforms that were pulling all their content from Netflix and undermining them, creating their own. And then it's like, my solution is I just do a month at a time. So I'll do like a month with Stan, which is an Australian one, and I will just watch everything on there that I want to, and then I'll cancel. And then the next month I'll do Disney or something, and I'll just watch whatever, catch up, basically binge and catch up for a month, and then move to the next one. So at the moment I'm streaming Paramount Plus for the third month, which I meant to unsubscribe right after Picard. I had like 2 days after Picard to unsubscribe, and I missed it by a day just because I was busy. So I'm now stuck for another month with them. Not happy because I wanted to make it really clear I left after Picard. But I did want to watch Picard again, and I haven't had the time. So I was going to watch Picard, and then so I'll just watch Picard again before then, and then I've already ended the subscription. But I don't always do it though. I don't always have a subscription. So I used to have Netflix was my standard, and then I do another one monthly just to catch up on the other shows. But then after what was that documentary that exploited little girls? There was you know the one I'm talking about. After that, I stopped going with Netflix. So now I don't really have a regular, and just every now and again I'll do something random. Like I was doing, I think, Stan for Sex and the City, the sequel to Sex and the City, and just like that. I had Stan for a couple of months to watch that, and then I kept it for an extra month to finish off, I think, Superman. And then once that was done, I cut off that, haven't been back on it since. I went on Paramount Plus to do Picard, and I did Picard, all 10 episodes, so it was 3 months basically. And now, once that's ended, I don't know when I'll subscribe again. Someone has to do something that I want to see enough to subscribe to, and usually, like I said, I'll just wait till something's over and I'll binge it. So I'm not paying month to month, because no one can do that. I mean, how many subscription services are there? You can't pay for all of them. But if you want the content, you want to see all your shows, you have to watch all these different shows. It's like cable. You had to have different channels, had different, different cables, had different... So you had to have... And it was just too expensive to have like 3 or 4 cable memberships. Now we're supposed to have 10 or 15 subscription services that we're paying for. People aren't going to do it. So what they're finding is the services are failing. They're not making the money they thought they were going to do. They're not replacing TV. They're not replacing cinema. They're oversaturating a market which really only 1 or 2 people are going to succeed in. So what's going to happen is what Sony is doing, where they're not even trying to have their own service. They are just making content to sell to other people. Like, we're going to make our content, you're going to pay us for it because you need content. You can't afford to make it yourself because you don't have enough money from streaming because you're competing with everyone else, and you only have a 5th of or 10th of the audience or something that you thought you'd have, because that audience is split over 10 other streaming services. So I think that's where we're at. I think the streaming service war has sort of ended, and no, it's not really going to end until we get down to the survivors. There'll be a couple ones that survive, but I think we've reached a point where they've all realised this is not going to work. We can't all have a streaming service that's going to be supported, or if it is, we're going to have to cut back, and the amount of content we create is going to be minimal. It's going to mostly be just a way to view our backlogs in our libraries, and that's not going to have the same appeal. So that's going to numbers are going to go down even more because people aren't getting new content. It's just, I think we hit a peak and now they're going down, and they'll settle somewhere where some places will drop out and they'll just create new content for other services, or they'll just become libraries which they don't really spend much on, just so you can, some of the, I think the TV stations like Peacock and that, they'll stay up, and it'll just be a way for people to stream their shows that they make on the main channel, but they're not spending anything on any new content for the streaming service, and it's really just a way to access their libraries. So there'll be a couple of those, and then I guess Netflix will survive, maybe Hulu, maybe Disney, and that's kind of all we're going to end up with. But I just feel like we've reached a point where they've seen, where it's going, and they've realised we can't all do this. There isn't this endless supply of money. I think they just thought, and they put all this money into it. Now they're realising, we need to cut back. We're not going to make, like Paramount Plus apparently isn't going to make a profit until 2024 or 2025 or something, and they're cutting back on money now with the writers' strike. They won't be able to put out new content anytime soon. They've probably got a little bit in the pipeline that's going to keep them for a little while. But if this strike keeps going, the last big one went for 100 days, and that was pretty severe. And there's rumours about that, conspiracy theories about that. It's really weird. I never really paid attention to how that ended. So everyone, and this is a whole nother topic, but it's kind of disturbing how many people are not supporting the writers' strike, and they're doing some weird elite thing where, it's just the elites who want this, the regular working, the good writers don't want this. And I'm like, where do you go with that? How do you sell that? And how does that work? And how do you benefit from that? Because some of these people commenting on this were writers. I'm not going to say what channel they're on. I'm like, really? You're kind of hurting yourself. and I'm not quite sure how you think this. Yeah, so, but back onto the original thing, streaming. It's hit a plateau, and everyone's reassessing and repositioning, and it looks like we're going to come to the point where some people are going to dip out, some people are going to, become the mainstays, and then others, they're just going to be creating content, and we're sort of halfway there. The war's not quite over. Like, we haven't quite seen who the victors are, but we basically know how it's going to end. But I'm going to go. Feel free to share, like, comment, subscribe. Let me know what you think. I find this all fascinating. I've been looking at back at the beta, VHS wars and the cable wars and all that, and how it all went and the politics of it all. It was all very fascinating, and it's been interesting to live through another war. I lived through the Blu-ray and HD one, and now the streaming one. It's sort of interesting. So we'll see where it ends.